In today's episode, we're going to be working on steps 16, 17, 18, pretty much, well, 18, I guess, the seat, 19, and 20. And the chassis joined together, so that'll be a big moment there, getting this thing all combined. And then working on the rest of the interior, the dash, the seats, steering wheel, etc. The brakes and the exhaust. So that should get most of the chassis complete. So without any further ado, let's get into that. So the next thing I'm going to start working on is getting the chassis together. I don't know if I'm going to film that or not, but we will check in periodically as I go through. I got a bit of cleaning to do on some parts here, get some paint on them, same with the interior stuff, and we'll show you the progress along the way. So we'll see you in a little bit. Before I got too carried away, I just wanted to do a quick check-in, working on the instrument panel, as you can see here. And yeah, you can see the instrument panel is covered in like a dark blue leather, so this is the base for that, and I will do a bit of enamel dry brushing over top of this to make it look more like leather. So there's that. But the one thing I just wanted to speak about a little bit were the gauges. So here's the gauges. They're silver. I'm leaving them in their bare metal finish. I just polished cleaned up the edges and the lip, and I'll give them a wash when I'm done with them to sort of bring out some more detail. But they provide decals for these, which are just meant to go straight inside. So what I did here, and this is what you can see down here, is I just cut a piece of really thin, I think it's like 0.1 mil styrene. Just cut a circle out that fits just inside there to put the decal on, and glued this inside the gauge face for the decal to go onto. Otherwise the decal's going onto the white metal, and it's not super smooth and flat in there, so that's why I did that, and I figured that would give a better foundation for the decals. And the gauge, and I'll just leave them white, because the gauge faces for the little gauges are white at least, the other one's black, so if there's a white border, I think it'll still look fine. I'm trying to get that to focus. There we go. Yeah, so just a little check in there. Yeah, so just, as you can see, these are all the ones that didn't fit. So takes these little cutters. They're hard to set precisely, but they work. They just take a bit of fiddling around to get them to work. You can buy, I think, some more precise ones, but they're super expensive. So, what does that thing cost? I think it was like $10 or something like that. So, anyways, that is what's going on with the instrument panel. So I will carry on getting the instruments done. I'm going to, like I say, do a little bit of work on this, just with some enamel paints. I'll just mix some blue and white to make a little bit lighter tone, maybe put a bit of gray in it, and just do a little bit of a dry brush and some stippling on it, and it'll just bring out some of the texture, or it'll impart some texture to make it look more like some worn leather. So that's that. The other part that I've done, let's just zoom out. I've got the chassis front and rear joined together, so this is all complete now. Got the drive shaft installed, got the little belt that drives whatever this pump is for, that's all in there and good. Got all the brake lines. I don't know if you can really see them in there. I think you can kind of see them down in there where the master cylinders are. And never be able to see it once this thing's all together, but yeah, so it's coming along. It's starting to look like a car now, and it's interesting, this project. It's hard to understand how big this car is, but you know, it doesn't, to me, even just sitting here building it, it hasn't really computed how big it is. But here's the dashboard. That's where the dashboard's going to go. Of course, the bar and everything's going to be painted the same color as this. But here's the seat. So this car is not very big. You know, and I think this sort of, once it all starts to come together, it kind of puts it more into perspective on how big this car really is. And it's not very big. So anyways, it's coming along. I will check back in a little bit. I'll probably have the dash done at the next check-in, and probably working on the seat, because I'll get the dash done and then I'll do the seat. That one I might show a bit of work on it, because we have to cover it in suede, so that'll be interesting. Maybe something to show. So anyways, I'll be back in a bit.
Dig through the interior, see what we got going on there. And then lastly, because we're procrastinating in place, we'll open the hood, see what the likelihood is we're going to take it working on it on its own. So this is a good sign right away. Normally these get clobbered in just completely full of vinyl, but that's the original body line. So that's pretty nice. Do see some heavy vinyl down here, however, and whatever kind of creature nest that is. And then we got a clobber. Road coming up here, maybe. I don't know. A little bit of rust right there. We're just going to call that weight reduction. Pretend we didn't see it. Doors look great. That's fresh metal. Might have to primer that now. It definitely has had a repaint. The amount of, like this vinyl right here was completely unnecessary. But it's been painted at some point. Fender was beautiful. Really, really nice. Pretty unique. Other than, you know, the drinker side, I think we got some glass down. Well, we can roll this down and then pretend we didn't see that. You know what I mean? A little bit of a lazy spring there. Body's in good shape. I'm impressed. Old-wise and nice. Smells like a dusty saddle blanket seat cover rolled in brown gravy and rosemary. It's not bad, actually. We've got some pinstriping, customage, regulators, headliner in pretty good shape. I don't know. At one point in time, this was all giddied up. And then we got pinstripage. Door card was redone. Check out this custom seat. Where's that cover? You got originalage with the custom bear seat cover with the secondary custom bear. No, it's not bear, it's ostrich or something. There's another seat cover on the seat cover. We got, this is the sun visor. Didn't get very far, little feller. We got a peace sign inside the gauge. It's inside. Switches galore. It's a hot rod because you got gauges pointed in every direction. The stick shift was a bolt action on the tree. Looks like they moved it down on the floor there. Cool shift. We got a sleeping bag and a pillow. So maybe that XR 4400 cassette player. Oh, it's not in there. Nice droppings are thick in this one. Really, really thick. I feel antivirus. I never got brakes. The great news is the brake master cylinder A is under the floor, hooked to the frame, extremely hard to access and work on. All the other parts and pieces are almost impossible to find on the entire brake system. 2 ice scrapers, paper towel roll, miscellaneous hardware, used fuel pump, a couple belts, hairbrush, 4 sparkulators, a mirror, and a chunk of grill. This is the inventory on the inside. And we got some bonus stuff like a 12 by 1 board. Come handy. Ammo bags, clutch is hard to push. It's been fan dangled and the wiring is doing this. So I think I might have owned this. Sure. Anyway, let's go ahead and open.
The fuck did madness go? All right, just doing a little bit of dry brushing on this to try to simulate a bit of a worn or weather exposed leather kind of look. I know it's kind of hard to see on the camera, especially right now because it's a bit glossy. I'll give this a coat of semi-gloss when I got it done, so that will enhance the look a little bit. So. Yeah, it's just trying to give it a bit of a mottled appearance. I don't know if that shows up. You can kind of get the idea there. Yeah, once I give it a semi-gloss coat, it'll unify the surface a little bit better, the sheen, and be more visible. So yeah, that's it for that. Back in a bit. All right, let's get the dash put together. I got the blue leather on the dash panel itself all finished. Got a coat of semi-gloss on there. That looks pretty good. Got all the gauges done, and all the other little various bits and pieces are going to go in here ready to go. So we'll just start putting it together. sakes. All right, I got everything glued up. I'm using a bit of older glue here. What am I using? It's some Bob Smith Industry thick gap filling stuff, extra thick. And this stuff, at the best of times, takes a while to dry and set up. But this stuff's pretty old. I kind of forgot about that. And it's taking a little longer to set up than I anticipated. You can see I had to put a little bit of paper there to hold up that lever so it wouldn't sag away. But in cases like this, you know, you can use accelerators to help set the CA quicker. But I don't want to apply any liquid CA or accelerator to these parts because it can react with paint and whatnot. So I just wanted to share a little trick with you. You need the aerosol Insta-Set for this, and you need a Tupperware container. So what you do is you just give it a light fog inside the container and put it over top, and the fumes will interact with the CA and cure it fairly quickly too. So, but then I'll just leave this for, you know, a few minutes or whatever, and then everything should be set up. And the big advantage of doing this is you don't get that sort of frosting of the CA or the wrinkling of the CA in most cases. So this one's pretty safe. We used to do this when we were gluing tires for RC cars to reduce traction. So anyways, I'm going to let that set up, and then we'll come back and finish off the dash and get it installed in the chassis. Be back in a minute. I had measured those, and they were 0.77. I drilled it out to 0.8. They still don't fit. Not ideal. I have to drill this out when I have glue in there already, but we'll get it. All right, well, you guys were looking away. I don't know what you're looking at, but I got the dash installed on the chassis. So yeah, that's all done. Let's see if we can give you a little bit different perspective here. I think it turned out pretty decently. Fit okay. The length of these was a bit off, so I don't know if that bulkhead's not quite tilted enough. I tried bending it in a bit, but it sits vertically. I test fit the body over top of everything as well, just to make sure that everything looked like it was more or less in the right spot, and it did, so I didn't want to mess with it too much. You're not going to see any of that anyways, so like there's a small gap here on that line, on that bar. That one's a little closer, so I don't know. Typical model Factory Hiro stuff, though. You just kind of roll with it, but the dash itself is where it's supposed to be, so that's good. It locates basically there, and then the steering column also has a dimple that locates on a hole that's on the dash here that goes through. And the other half of the steering column is separate. It installs right there to line it all up with the steering shaft. So the illusion will make it look real. So anyways, that's all done. So I'm going to get this put aside, and the next thing to work on is going to be the seat. I don't know, I might have shown, I threw some paint on it. This is going to get covered in a suede fabric, Alcantara or whatever it is that they supply in the kit. So, but I put a base coat that's similar color, just in case there's any gaps or anything, so that it's not white showing through. So, but it's not a bad seat, and you got to cover it up. You could actually, a guy that's good at painting, if it was a leather seat, you could paint this up and it would look really good. So, but we're going to cover it. We're going to build it with the material they supplied for it. And so that'll be next. So I'm going to get this off the bench. There is a pretty good look at the chassis so far. It's starting to look, like a 1950s racer. Looking at this stuff compared to modern race cars, it boggles the mind, I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy building stuff like this. Like I've had a lot of exposure to vehicles throughout my careers and whatnot, so quite familiar with the way things are built nowadays, and looking at how they did things, especially for race cars back in the day, is remarkable. So I quite enjoy this aspect of things, is just seeing the mechanical design. And it's one of the things that I like about Model Factory Hiro, is they give you a model that's built and constructed much the way the real cars were. Unlike, let's say, a curbside kit of, although Model Factory Hiro does curbside kits as well, but other kits where everything's simplified and, sort of the underpinning structure isn't there. I like this. Anyways, does it make up for all the shortcomings in their stuff? Not always, but nonetheless, we're persevering. So anyways, enough of that little rant, little sidetrack, but we'll get onto the seat and the steering wheel, and we'll get the cockpit wrapped up. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, for the seat, they give you this material. It's suede. I don't know if it's actually suede or if it's Alcantara or something similar. But anyways, it's like a suede cloth material. They give you a template. Sorry, I already cut it out. I'm a horrible video maker. I start doing work without putting the camera on. Anyways, they give you a template. So I've just cut out the portion of the template I need. I've glued it to the back here, and now I'll just cut out the patterns, and we'll start skinning the seat. That makes more sense. This will be the outside. Alright, I gotta figure out how well this stuff sticks, so I think I'll do the seat first. I was also probably gonna coat everything with this, or all the plastic, or resin, with a layer. This is a contact adhesive, so you put it on, you let it dry, and it tacks up, and then when you apply anything over it with and apply pressure, it becomes really sticky. I've used this before to do similar, to add fabric over something, and it works really well, and it seems to last quite a long time too, so I haven't had anything that I've done with it fail, so I'm probably going to do that with this. This is sticky backed, but I think I'll still use that. We'll see. I'll do this one without it, the bottom, and see how it goes. I actually used it to glue the paper onto the backing of the fabric, and that's what this glue is. So you can see how sticky it is. Yeah, I don't know. This stuff seems to stick pretty well, so maybe we'll just we'll go with it. There we go. Looks okay. I don't know. I'm always torn using these fabrics on the seat because they always look a little overscale for my liking. But it's not bad. I got a little bit of I trimmed that corner, wasn't great, but it'll look good sitting inside the car. So overall, happy with that. All right, on to the steering. All right, next up is the steering wheel. I've got the seat got the seat base glued up. I got the seat pad glued on. Set that aside, let it set up. So steering wheel, 3 components. We've got a center section and back in the front of the wheel rim, which are going to be wood. They give it to you in this sort of yellowish resin, which no real purpose to that. You have to paint it to make it look like wood. Because obviously wood's not clear, so there's no relevance to this being a clear piece of, or a translucent piece of resin. Anyways, they give you 2 different options for the center section. They give you a photo etch one out of stainless, and they give you this aluminum one. I'm going to go for the aluminum one, and I'm going to make it look like the arms are brushed. So I have a piece of 600 grit sandpaper, and I just go over the spokes. This one I'm doing the whole center as well, but then I'll show you when I do the other ones, and just brush them. And these ones I just start where the center ends. It gives it sort of a brushed aluminum look on the spokes of the wheel, and it knocks out any sort of the hard edge on it as well, so it makes it look a little better. So next up, what I'm going to do next is What I'm going to do next is glue these on to this. This is 1/2 mil thick, so I can actually mask it once I've done this to paint the wood, and then have the exposed metal edge just like on the real wheel. So I'm going to build it up first and then prep it. One of the reasons for that is, and then paint the wood. One of the reasons for that is this one's got a whole lot of flash, and it's a little larger diameter than the metal piece. So in order to get it to fit properly and be the right shape, it ideally needs to be glued on. Then I sand the outside and sand the inside, and then I can just mask off the aluminum and paint this. So that's what I'm going to do, and I will super glue it. I'll do it one side at a time. It's just easier. So I'll get one in place, clamp it all the way around, let that dry, take my clamps off, glue the other one on, reclamp it, and then I'll be ready to finish prepping and painting. So I'm going to do that off camera though, so I will go and do that and check back in a bit. Alright, I got the steering wheel built, got the 2 wood pieces glued in, so I used gel CA to glue them, which I find is good because it squeezes out and does a bit of gap filling. That being said, I did find that, let's see if I can zoom in a bit on this, that, the diameter of the resin piece, especially this top one, was smaller than the diameter of the metal piece of the steering wheel. So there was a lip between the metal and the resin here. The other side, it wasn't quite as bad. It was closer to the same diameter. So what I've been working on is I've been using this stuff, the Easy Sanding CA, and I've just been running a bead around to sort of fill that gap, letting it set up and then sanding it back so that this is a nice smooth radius between the wood and the metal. So that's what I'm working on now. It'll need a little bit of work on the inside too. I found what the problem there is both parts of the resin are, the inner diameter of the resin is, I guess, smaller than the metal. So the metal piece is recessed in. And it's quite a bit, so I don't know what I'm going to do there. Right now I have it filled with CA. You can see it's kind of shiny there, to just fill in that gap. So I might just smooth it and leave it filled in, with none of the metal exposed. Or, because if I sand it down, then the rim of the steering wheel is going to be too thin. You can kind of see it. If I hold it at this angle, you can see just by the shadow where the metal ends. So, I don't know. I'm still working on it. I will carry on sanding this. Probably just do it off camera. It's easier, quite frankly. But basically I'm just using a 220 sanding stick, and just where I put and just work it around to blend the super glue, the CA glue, and get rid of that, and just sort of rolling it over the edges just to give it a bit of a radius. And yeah, just rinse and repeat until it's smooth. Once I got it more or less where I want it, then I'll come back with the sanding sponge and give it a better radius, and I'll get it ready for finishing. So anyways, it's coming along. I think it's a bit of work. It's a lot more work than, the fact that it's 3 parts would suggest. But I think, the effort spent now will pay off, because this is, highly visible on this car, the steering wheel. It's kind of one of those parts that draw your eye into it. It's very prominent on the car, obviously. So a little bit of work spent on this, I think, will pay off, and it'll end up with something pretty nice in the end. So I'm going to carry on with that, and I'll check in. Put together, sanded, all the gaps filled. Give it a coat of primer and some paint. I did a base coat of red brown. I think this was AK Real Colors, this one, red brown, which is really red compared to like Tamiya or Mr. Hobby's red brown, which is more brown. So anyways, I'm trying to replicate mahogany. I've looked at a few references, and a lot of these wheels, they look like they're quite dark wood that look like mahogany, so that's what I'm going for. So anyways, I got the base there. Next I'm going to do a little bit of oil. So I've got this is Abtulon 502 oils, and I think this one here is dark rust, and this one was bitumen. So just a little bit of a mix of black and and brown. So I'm just gonna get this on here. I'm not really too concerned about being neat or anything. Most of this is going to come off. Try to get everything inside. All right, I'm just gonna let that sit and dry for a bit, and I'm going to come back with a clean brush and with thinners and remove most of it, but it'll sort of leave some wood grain effect. At least that's the plan, so I'll be back in a minute. Alright, it's been sitting for a bit. I got some odorless thinners here, which are usually not as strong as like enamel thinner, so that's what I use because I don't want to affect the base paint, even though it's lacquer. If something too strong could affect it. So anyways, just a damp brush, and just coming along and just wiping that oil paint. To kind of put some grain effect. It's probably going to be pretty subtle because I'm using a bunch of similar colors, but you know, mahogany is a pretty dark wood that doesn't have a lot of contrast in it. So we'll see how this goes. If it doesn't look that good, then I'll probably just come back again with some more oil and maybe just the black. Sorry, you probably can't see this very well, but you get the idea. We'll essentially end up taking most of it off. I actually put a bit more of the black on. Nice thing about using oil paints is, you know, if you're not happy with it or screw it up or whatever, you just wash it off and start again. Within reason. It eventually dries. But it takes time to dry. I'm sure that this is not picking up on camera very well, but I can see that you know, it's leaving some subtle graining effects. I'm just sort of working it back and forth, putting some on, taking a bit off. The wet brush. Yeah, just keeping my brush strokes sort of in the direction I want the grain to go. Alright. I think that's okay. Again, quite hard to tell on camera. It's looking a little red still. So I'm going to let this dry. That might take a day or two. And then I will probably give it a light coat of clear brown. Maybe do a mix of brown and orange, clear brown and orange. Maybe orange. We'll see. I'm going to have to test that to bring out a bit of, brighten it up a little bit. But I think overall it'll look good. And then once that is done, I don't know if you noticed, but I taped off, you know, the edge of the rim where the metal shows. So once I got the wood the way I want it, I'll untape that, make sure it's not too lumpy. I might have to do a little bit of wet sanding on it, and then I'll give it a coat of clear lacquer and make it shine. So I'll probably just go ahead and do all that, and the next you'll see it is complete. So we'll see you in a little bit. Alright, so there we have it. I've got the steering wheel all done, installed, seats done, as you can see. It's just sitting there. I'll put it in after I get the tank on. But yeah, that brings us up to the end of step 19 there, so that's where we're going to end this episode. So just thought I'd give you a quick look. The steering wheel, I think the last I left you, we were just working on the steering wheel. I was doing some oil paint on it, so I just went through and put some clear coat on it, and then gave it a bit of a polish, wet sand and polish, and got the emblem put on in the middle. Hopefully that's focusing. This is kind of hard to, precarious. I could drop it. That would be disastrous. Yeah, so it looks pretty good all together now. So that's the whole cockpit all done. Yeah, so don't know what else to say. That's about it. Next episode, we'll start working on the brakes, and so the brakes, the exhaust, and the fuel tank, which I think we've already seen, and get that installed on the chassis. And that's pretty much the chassis done at that point, and then I'll be moving on to bodywork and whatnot. So yeah, we're nearing the end of this project. So it's starting to move along now. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.